We salute you and we thank you for defending our freedoms and preserving our way of life for future generations. This evening, we will be honoring outstanding individuals who have devoted their lives to protecting our country and caring for our nation's active military personnel and veterans. Tonight's keynote speaker is devoted to a cause near and dear to many of us gathered in this room, providing quality care to the nation's 22 million veterans. As Secretary of the Department of Veteran Affairs, Robert A. McDonald is working hard to transform and modernize the federal government's second largest agency to better accomplish that critical goal. Known for his intensity and commitment, Secretary McDonald relies on his inherent values of integrity, respect, and excellence to guide his leadership of the department. Secretary McDonald's combination of military and corporate experience prepared him well for his role. He grew up in Chicago as the son of an Army Air Corps veteran of World War II, and then went on to graduate from the United States Military Academy at West Point in the top 2% of his class. An Army veteran, he served 5 years as a paratrooper and attained the rank of captain in the 82nd Airborne Division. In addition to his military service, Secretary McDonald has more than 33 years of experience in business and leadership. Most notably, he served as chairman, president, and CEO of Procter & Gamble, one of the world's largest consumer products companies. He also held leadership positions at Xerox and the United States Steel Corporation. Both President George W. Bush and President Barack Obama appointed him to the Advisory Committee for Trade Policy. Additionally, Secretary McDonald and his wife Diane jointly founded the McDonald Cadet Leadership Conference at West Point. Secretary McDonald is charged with this vital, multifaceted, and ever-changing task of ensuring that our nation's veterans have the resources they need to enjoy health, respect, and productivity after their military careers have ended. I know that DAR members never waver in their support of our nation's veterans, and I know that support will continue during the evolution of the Department of Veteran Affairs. Please join me in welcoming this evening's distinguished keynote speaker, Honorable Robert A. McDonald, Secretary, United States Department of Veteran Affairs. Secretary McDonald.
Thank you. Lynn, thank you for that kind introduction and for your leadership of this distinguished and really important organization. And to the members of the Daughters of American Revolution, your enduring commitment to our military and our veterans for over 125 years is remarkable and inspiring. On behalf of all veterans, thank you for your hard work, for your compassion and your devotion, and for joining VA in honoring those who have served our nation. I'm pleased to be here with a group of people who really understand what it means to serve. J.D. Crouch, USO President, Major General James Jackson, and Brigadier General Wilma Vaught. Tonight we're going to honor our Vietnam veterans. You'll hear more about the commemoration in a few minutes, but I'd really like to personally and publicly thank them once again for their service and for their sacrifice. About 2 months ago, I was standing with Secretary of Defense Ash Carter and some Vietnam veterans at their memorial on the Mall in Washington. We had just laid a wreath to honor and thank all veterans of Vietnam. Similar ceremonies have taken place at more than 400 locations across the country. Now, if you stand at the center of the wall and you look to your left and to your right, down those huge pieces of polished black granite, you begin to get a sense of the magnitude of the price that generation of patriots paid for our freedom. That's just the beginning. Behind more than 58,000 names chiseled in stone are those who served and sacrificed alongside them. There are the mothers and the fathers, the sisters and the brothers, and the sons and the daughters who sacrificed too. When a nation called, they answered. I have the privilege of working with Dr. Linda Schwartz, Assistant Secretary for Policy and Planning at the VA, who's a Vietnam veteran, a retired flight nurse, and also a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. If I may, let me ask all Vietnam veterans to please stand, and let's applaud their courage and their sacrifice for our country. You shouldered a heavy burden of a long and unpopular war with immense courage and immense dignity. Thank you and welcome home. The honorees and organizations receiving awards tonight are wonderful examples for all of us, and they've been making profound differences in the lives of so many service members and veterans who have served so selflessly. Let's not forget that at this very moment, our armed forces are on the front lines. Like generations before them, they display extraordinary strength and resilience in the face of adversity to protect the freedoms that we as Americans enjoy daily. They've been at that tough, demanding work for nearly 15 years. When these men and women return home, we have the opportunity to show them our gratitude by serving them. In his second inaugural address, President Lincoln charged us to care for those who have borne the battle. It's a noble mission and one that's very personal to me. My wife, Deanne, and I come from families with strong traditions of military service. Deanne's father was shot down over Europe and survived harsh treatment as a POW. My father served in the Army Air Corps after World War II. Deanne's uncle served in Vietnam, where he was exposed to Agent Orange, and he still receives care at the VA. And today, my nephew has returned from flying missions over the Middle East and now commands a fighter squadron in North Carolina. For myself, I graduated from the United States Military Academy in 1975 with my good friend and the Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Sloan Gibson. My time at West Point, and then as an Airborne Ranger with the 82nd Airborne Division, instilled in me strong values and a lifelong sense of duty to our country. After 4 decades later, still, simple words from the West Point Cadet Prayer guide me. Choose the harder right rather than the easier wrong. That's my commitment to every veteran and to their families. When the President appointed me and the Senate confirmed me to make dramatic changes at the VA, I made a commitment to transform the VA into a world-class, customer-focused, veteran-centered enterprise. We began by reinforcing the importance of our inspiring mission. We then re-emphasized our exceptional I-CARE values: integrity, commitment, advocacy, respect, and excellence. Everything we do is built on this rock-solid foundation of mission and values to provide quality and timely care and benefits for veterans. The investments we're making allow us to meet our obligations to veterans with the same degree of dignity and fidelity with which they put their lives on the line for our country. We're putting the needs, expectations, and interests of veterans and their families first, putting veterans in control of how, when, and where they wish to be served. We call our transformation My VA, which is our framework for modernizing our culture, our processes, and our capabilities. Our 5 strategies are about customer service excellence. First, we need to improve the veteran's experience. Second, we need to improve the employee experience because it's the employees that improve the veteran experience. Third, we need to improve our internal support services. Fourth, we need to establish a culture of continuous improvement. And fifth, we need to expand our strategic partnerships. Now, two of these strategies, improving veterans' experience and enhancing strategic partnerships, involve all of you. Serving veterans is a collaborative endeavor. VA was founded on partnerships in the aftermath of World War II. In 1946, General Omar Bradley, then the VA administrator, established VA's voluntary service as part of his modernization efforts. He understood the benefits of collaboration at every level to improve care for veterans. He understood that he couldn't do the job by himself, nor could VA, and that collaboration involved creating a force multiplier for VA's efforts. General Bradley reached out to medical colleges and universities across the country to enlist them in the cause of caring for veterans returning from Europe and the Pacific. Today, 70 years later, and in the same spirit of General Bradley, strategic partnerships continue to help VA do for veterans what no single agency or organization could ever do by themselves. It takes the strong support of Congress, the dedication of veteran service organizations, and the coordinated effort from the federal to the grassroots level. It's capitalizing on strategic partnerships with external organizations and leveraging their goodwill, their resources, and expertise aimed at providing veterans with improved outlooks, opportunities, and outcomes. It's operating as part of a community of care to better serve veterans and to help address a wide array of veterans' needs, from employment to homelessness to mental health to many, many others. Let me give you an example of an immense potential and the power of partnerships. In June 2014, First Lady Michelle Obama reminded us, and I quote, "Tens of thousands of veterans who risked their lives for our country are sleeping in their cars or in a shelter or next to a subway vent. We should be horrified," she said, "because that's not who we are as Americans." Well, she's right. It's not who we are. As part of her Joining Forces initiative, the First Lady announced the Mayor's Challenge to end veterans' homelessness in June of 2014. Today, that coalition number includes 869 governors, mayors, and other state and local officials who are committed to ending veteran homelessness in their communities. These are powerful partnerships. Federal agencies working with states, with counties, with cities, in a true cross-governmental collaboration with local leaders on the ground. I especially want to acknowledge the work of Mayor Eric Garcetti, who's worked closely with us to find homes for veterans in the greater Los Angeles area. There's probably no better example for other mayors or community leaders across the country than Eric and his devotion to solving this national problem. Homelessness is a national problem, to be sure, but Eric will tell you that homelessness is a local issue that has to be solved locally. Los Angeles, home to roughly 10% of all homeless veterans in this country, saw a 30% decrease in the number of veterans experiencing homelessness, even as the overall numbers of homeless people went up by 6% in the last year. And I believe Eric would tell you how important strategic partnerships were to achieve that success. Local organizations coordinating at the state and at the national levels. That's why VA is working with the Housing and Urban Development and the Department of Labor at the national level, in addition to enhancing local partnerships and collaborations in order to bring an end to veteran homelessness. Overall, veterans' homelessness has declined 36% in the last 5 years. We've seen a nearly 50% drop in unsheltered veteran homelessness. Since 2010, more than 360,000 veterans and their family members have been permanently housed, rapidly rehoused, or prevented from falling into homelessness. In 2015 alone, in partnerships with communities, VA provided services to more than 365,000 homeless, at-risk, and formerly homeless veterans through homeless programs. More than 36,000 veterans and their family members, including 6,500 children, were prevented from becoming homeless. So far, 25 communities in 2 states have put the systems in place to successfully meet the challenge to end veterans' homelessness on an ongoing basis. In Virginia, Governor Terry McAuliffe announced an effective end to veterans' homelessness on Veterans Day last year. Now that's collaboration and partnership at its very best. I think it's exactly what President Lincoln meant when he charged the nation to care for those who have borne the battle and their families. For almost 2 years, I've been blessed to work on behalf of our veterans. I take great pride in leading an organization that has the noblest mission in government. And I'm privileged to serve with my VA colleagues as we move forward to strengthen and renew the sacred covenant between America and her veterans. Thanks for making this year's National Defense Night so special. May God bless you all, our veterans, and our great nation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. You can stand over here, Bobby. We're going to present you with something. Secretary McDonald, in recognition of your leadership and dedication to our nation's veterans, we would like to present you with this token of our appreciation. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Come on. In addition to the hundreds of thousands of hours of volunteer service to our veterans, I'm also very pleased to mention that we recently donated $40,000 to 4 VA medical centers in support of female patients recovering from traumatic stress. Every single day, the men and women who serve in our armed forces sacrifice their own comfort and well-being so that their fellow Americans may continue to enjoy the freedoms our founding fathers fought to establish. Not only do they risk bodily harm, but they also endure absences from home that can lead to feelings of isolation and disconnect. Many organizations, including DAR, work to help ease this burden. Chief among them is the United Service Organizations, better known to many of us as the USO, a group dedicated to strengthening America's military service members by keeping them connected to family, home, and country throughout their service to our nation. This year, the USO marks its 75th anniversary. Just think of the millions of service members the USO has helped during that time. To give you a little bit more information about the history of the USO, please welcome National Defense Chair Kathy Hanlon. Mrs. Hanlon.
In 1941, before the United States entered World War II, President Franklin D. Roosevelt sought to unite service associations into one organization to lift the morale of our military and foster support on the home front. Thus, the Salvation Army, Young Men's Christian Association, Young Women's Christian Association, National Catholic Community Services, National Travelers Aid Association, and the National Jewish Welfare Board became the United Service Organizations, or the USO. For 75 years, the USO has been a national leader in serving the men and women in the United States military and their families throughout their time in uniform. It is crucial to realize that our military personnel need consistent support. The USO is by their side from the first time they don the uniform until the last time they take it off, through their assignments and deployments, and as they transition back to their communities. A congressionally chartered private organization, the USO relies on the generosity of individuals, organizations, and corporations to support its activities. Thousands of staff and volunteers strive to match our service members' vigilance and provide best-in-class service to those who sacrifice so very much for America. Through airport hospitality centers, trademark touring performances, and specialized programs, this dedicated network offers continuous support to service members. Today's USO constantly adapts to the needs of our men and women in uniform and their families so they can focus on their important mission. The USO operates 160 centers worldwide on every continent except Antarctica. America's 1.3 million active duty service members receive an estimated annual total of 10 million acts of connection from USO's centers, services, and organizations. Both our military personnel and the grateful citizens they serve are indebted to the USO for its 75 years of exemplary commitment. Please direct your attention to the video screens to see how the USO connects our service members.
Welcome to the USO. Have you been to our center before? We would like to show you around.
Home. It's more than a place. It's a feeling. Knowing that you're surrounded by those who care. Being comfortable enough to relax. To appreciate the small things. To laugh. So when the road is hard and the journey is long, let this be a place you can call your home until you are home again. When you're half a world away from the ones you love, from the milestones to the everyday moments,
Daddy, when are you coming home?
you can count on us to be there, keeping you connected to those you care about the most. Because wherever you go, know that you will not go alone. From the first goodbye until you are together again, we will be there, bridging the gap between you and your family, no matter how far apart you are. This is how America shows its gratitude to you. Your country is thankful for the sacrifices you make. You are what make us great. You are what makes America worth celebrating. Know that we will remain steadfast in our commitment to you. We will meet your needs wherever they arise. We are a family of volunteers here to show you that what you do is appreciated, that your service does not go unnoticed. We will always keep you connected to family, home, and country, no matter where you are and no matter how long. We are the USO, and we are here for you.
Our organization feels immense pride in and devotion to our nation's service members, and we have the utmost respect and admiration for the USO's long tradition of work. I'm delighted to honor the USO's 75 years of dedicated service by presenting the President General's Medallion, an award reserved for those who embody the spirit of the Daughters of the American Revolution through their exceptional service and commitment to patriotism. Here to accept this award on behalf of all those at the USO whose commitment to supporting our troops and their families is truly unmatched is USO President and CEO Dr. J.D. Crouch II. Dr. Crouch two-time recipient of the Department of Defense Distinguished Public Service Medal, previously served as a senior advisor to President George W. Bush on national security matters. We are honored to have him here this evening to accept the President General's Medallion. Please welcome Dr. J.D. Crouch.
Thank you.
Please.
Well, good evening, and thank you very much, Madam President General, for that warm introduction of the USO. I also want to thank Secretary McDonald for his leadership in helping our veterans in a steadfast and determined way. Thank you also, Mrs. Hanlon, for your introductory remarks about the USO. To the members of the DAR Continental Congress, thank you for sharing the USO's commitment to patriotism and honoring our service members. Congratulations on 125 years and counting. And of course, to all of our current and former service members here tonight, thank you for your service to our nation. And I would also like to point out the military family members. Thank you for your service. We at the USO know that military families also make sacrifices. The freedoms we enjoy in this nation are because of you all. Thank you. Now, as was mentioned, the USO was founded in 1941 by President Franklin Roosevelt, who understood the importance of maintaining high morale in our fighting force. During World War II, when the USO was founded, 12% of the U.S. population served in the military. Today, that number is less than 1%. Despite the many changes, however, since our creation, the central challenge of military life has not changed, and that is separation. Being separated from the things we civilians can often take for granted. And that's where the USO steps in. 75 years later, we continue to support our military by keeping them connected to family, home, and country. I'm honored to accept this award on behalf of the USO staff and over 30,000 volunteers who serve the USO and who donate more than 1 million hours of their time each year. And you know, this room, we have current and former USO volunteers here tonight. Thank you for your commitment and your dedication. I want to relate one quick story. I was at Bagram Air Force Base at a little Swiss chalet that was built by the USO, sitting in this very inhospitable place. And I walked in there, this is in Afghanistan, and I walked in with my wife. We were on a visit with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And sitting at the table were 4 service members. They didn't notice us walk in, nor should they have. And it was around Christmas time, and they were sitting making gingerbread houses. And they had these big grins on their faces. And you know, I don't know whether they would have made gingerbread houses back home, but I know, and I could see in that moment, that they were connected back to their homes, back to the places where those things took place, out in the middle of a very dangerous place where they were out protecting our freedoms. And I realized at that very moment that I had the greatest job in the world, and that what we do is so important day in, day out, in war or outside of war. From Kansas to Kandahar, we like to say, the USO is there. We touch tens of millions of service members and their families, and we could not do that without you, our family of volunteers. So this anniversary year, we, the USO, are celebrating our decades of work, but we are also rededicating ourselves to our vital mission, keeping our men and women in uniform connected to the peoples, places, and things they love and they fight for. As you know, our service members still need us, and as long as there is a fighting force, there will be that feeling of separation. And the USO will continue to be that vital bridge that keeps our service members and their families connected and lets them know that America has their back. Thank you very much for this special recognition, and thank you for your support of the USO.